Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I'm your co-host Ashton with my awesome co-host here, Zach. How you doing, Zach?
Oh man, I'm pumped for this episode. It's something that I've been waiting for pretty much since the end of last season. We finally get to talk about who the Rams are going to face in the 2023 session. We could put last or season. We can put the last year's season behind us, and let's move forward and let's keep trucking along. How are you doing, Ashton?
Doing good. Got to watch a lot of interesting schedule announcement videos from all the teams. I gotta say, this year was definitely better than last year in general. I thought a lot of the teams did a lot better. I am not a TikTok guy, Zach, so I wasn't really into the Rams. I'm not going to say it was bad because that's just not my thing. I can't testify to whether that was good or not. It was what it was for me. But I gotta say, the Jags knocked it out of the park for me. I love that so much. They did such a great job. The Chargers also, I like to watch anime, so I was very appreciative of a lot of the inside jokes in there. I feel like that's gonna be the same way. Some people who are in the TikTok will like the inside jokes there. Some people don't watch anime won't necessarily get the Chargers video. Uh, but Titans also had a good one.
I would
Some
say
good
my top
content
two would
there.
be. I would say my top two are the Chargers and the Titans. I think those were great. Um, Jaguars, it was a really well scripted, no, I mean pun intended, video. It didn't really tickle my feather like I saw a lot of people did really enjoy it, and so I got the humor out of it. It just didn't make me laugh or smile like it did for everybody else. But I thought the Titans was hilarious. And then obviously, again, I'm with you. I am an anime guy. I feel like even the commentaries I did it like even if you weren't an anime guy, just the style and all the little things that they put into an animated version of a schedule
Like
release. They put a
Easter
lot of
egg.
time and effort. Yeah, they put a lot of time and effort into it. So again, I've said this on on social and things like that. The LA Chargers are kind of killing it when it comes to kind of branding themselves in the
Yeah,
LA.
social media.
Um, I mean, even even I get this even goes to the draft too. When I know that the Rams didn't have a day one pick, but and the Chargers did, but the Chargers had like this, huge like gathering for fans to watch this together, and the Rams didn't have that. They had their draft house. They were siloed. They were kind of, they were living their Hollywood lifestyle behind their, guarded, garden walls, while the Chargers are trying to like, you know, go to an open food court area and things like that. Um, that's just kind of my thoughts. But those, like I said, I think the Chargers and the Titans really killed it for me. Everybody else, but like I said, I'm not into TikTok either. So the Rams was subpar. They just posted a thing this week with Aaron Donald. Did you see that video where they were going through his sacks each week against the opposing teams? Um, and so I thought that was actually would have been a better
Oh,
video.
that would have been a fantastic video. I think he sacked every team in the NFL but three.
But two of them are on this season, which
Yep.
surprisingly, the Colts. He's faced them at least two times, if not three.
We blown out the
And
Colts too, and that's the
yeah,
surprising thing. You think
yeah,
you would have got a sack during the blown like our games against the Colts haven't been necessarily close.
they
I
have
guess the
not. Which,
one 2 years ago was.
well, it was close at the end. It wasn't really close until kind of at the very end. And then so we got that going for us. I thought that was actually a better video, and I really wish they would have used that. That would have just been hilarious to watch a team just get every week. You just see a new Aaron Donald sack against that team. I thought that would have been clever. So, but do you want to go ahead and let's move on to who we're facing on what weeks?
Yeah. So with the schedule, they dropped every week, guys, and we'll just go ahead and kind of preview that for y'all. We're not gonna get super into depth. I think in future episodes, Zach, we'll do a more week by week with
Yeah,
we'll do, you can say predictions, but it's always loose and the season happens. Things happen. Like, no one predicted our entire team would get hurt multiple times over and over and over last year. So add a little grain of salt there with our predictions and stuff like that, but we'll do more in depth in future episodes. These
We got
are
plenty
just
of
our
time.
initial reactions, yeah. And we'll put some nuggets of information out there if you don't already know. So in the preseason, I'll kind of group all these up for you, Zach. We face the Chargers and Raiders and Broncos. If that sounds familiar, same exact teams we did in 2021. It saves on gas mileage for the Rams because they will be traveling a lot. I think they're fifth most in miles this year, so not as high as they've been, but they're still pretty high. They're up there. Uh, Zach, I know it's preseason, so like you don't put a lot of stock in what happens in the game itself. Uh, I personally think the preseason, if you have a winning record, should go to like that 18th game if you get home field advantage or not. That's a personal opinion. It should have some weight, but uh, they won't ever do that. Either way, are you excited for these preseason games? Do you think it's worth watching? And are you looking forward to watching some Stetson Bennett or some other QBs kind of battle it out for QB2?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're looking for, is because we know the Rams have never put their starters out under the Sean McVay era of putting their starters out during preseason. So this is going to be a chance for the second, third string on both offense and defense, potential starters. I mean, you're going to have people like Logan Bruss. Yes, he got injured during preseason, so you do have those possible casualties as well. But you really get to see what these new draftees, these all the new rookies and things like that, all what they have to offer and what they can bring on the field, and play it out as it is. So I do think they are important. They're not important to the grand scheme of how the team is going to be, throughout, all 18 weeks. But um, but for the most part, this does help you evaluate the roster and who's going to stay, who's going to go. So pretty exciting there. And two of those are technically home games for the Rams too. So those who live in LA will be able to watch those as home games.
Yeah, it should provide some entertainment and hopefully satisfy that itch. When it starts getting that time of year, you want football. It's not there yet, but like you're like, okay, I'm finally ready for the season to start again. And that should keep us a little satisfied until week 1. Zach, we play on week 1 the Seahawks. I think this is an interesting scheduling decision. Um, I can't remember the last time we faced the Seahawks on week 1. I typically don't like divisional matches in the first 5 weeks of the season. I feel like it builds better drama if they're later on because those games mean so much more to each team. They are, for the most part, splitting up. We have a lot of divisional games early on and very late in the schedule. So what do you make of the Seahawks this year? Do you think they're going to continue a upward trajectory? I know they were surprised last year. No one expected much out of them. I know we didn't expect much out of them. And granted to them, they had a remarkable draft last year and they knocked every pick out of the park. Really great job by Pete Carroll. That team was fighting all the way. They shouldn't have made it to the playoffs. They shouldn't have beat us, but they did. And they're a playoff team, and we had to face a playoff team week 1.
Yeah. So I was kind of going to go what you were saying. I mean, yes, they shouldn't have won the last game, so they probably shouldn't even made it to the playoffs. So will they be as good? They'll probably be as good as they were. I don't know if they're going to jump off the pages, but it is the NFC West, and it's a hard division, and so going up the Seahawks, in Seattle is going to be a hard fought. But the good thing about it is that we kind of get them done while it's still warm outside. So that is a benefit to the Rams, that they are able to play them, um, outside and in warmer weather. Might
Mhm.
be raining, but at least it will be warm. To kind of go on your take a little bit about the divisional games, I'm actually in favor of this. I felt like it was always like, all right, we got, 49ers, then we have one or two games, then we have the 49ers again. And the same thing with like, I felt they were sometimes too close together as far as when we were like back to back games that we were facing. So I do like the kind of spread out. We have San Francisco in week 2, and then we don't follow them up till the end of the season. So I just think that I think that does bring a little bit more drama into it, because I think there will be more higher stakes, as you get down towards the bottom.
Yeah, you just look though how like your season can be really put on a shaky footing. Like if we lose both of those games in the first 2 weeks and you're 0-2 and you're 0-2 in division, you're in a big hole. That's that can mess up your season pretty quickly.
I mean,
Especially if
shoot,
anyone gets injured.
yeah, I mean, you look at this. I mean, we'll go through each week, but you look at the first 5 weeks, and we have 4 playoff teams. Um, that's a hard schedule, no matter who you are. And for Rams who had a not so great season last year, I mean, they are the underdogs. I think if once we go through this, and if you go look at like the betting odds, the Rams are only favored 4 or 5 games out of all 17 of the games they have to play. So you can tell that people are already betting against the Rams, and betting against the Rams pretty heavily. So I think last week when the schedule was released, and maybe it's still now, that the Rams were like a 5.5 underdogs to the Seattle Seahawks. So um, it is what it is. But I think the Rams have taken that mentality, and they're ready. They're ready for it. You've heard Sean McVay. You've heard Aaron Donald. They're let them call us the underdogs. We'll prove them wrong, and let's move forward.
Yeah. Do you think this is a winnable game for the Rams? Coming out of the draft, coming out of that injured riddled year, um, is it a winnable game? Do you see us winning this game?
I'm gonna, I say this every single time, and I think people may, when we go do these breakdowns of each week, every team is beatable. Every team is beatable. There is not a team out there who is unbeatable. We've seen that. I mean, what I think Tom Brady had one perfect season in his entire career, um, and
And
I don't
lost.
even, yeah. So it's one of those things where no one is perfect. Not one team. Every team is beatable. So yes, they are a beatable team, especially since we're coming off. Again, we still have to go through OTAs and training camp and preseason to make sure everyone continues to play healthy and be healthy. But if you have Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald on the field, I think you have a way better chance of winning that ball game than
Mhm.
without them.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the fact that we should have beat them with Baker Mayfield without Cup and AD. Yeah, we don't have Ramsey anymore, but like that defense for the Seahawks isn't great. Yes, they have Tariq Woolen, but they're gonna have a bunch of rookies around him, and the chances of them hitting on all of them, it's very slim. It doesn't typically happen. Uh, you look at that. You look at the fact that will Geno Smith have like a continued success in the NFL after a year? A lot of QBs only have like one great year or one good year and just fall off a cliff.
Yep.
It's been very well known to happen. I'm not going to say like that will definitely happen. I just think the Rams pull off a win here. And I tend to be the pessimist of both of us. I do think this Rams offense will be a lot better than people expect. I don't think they're going to be top 10. I think they're going to be borderline top 10. I think they're going to be at that 11 to 12 mark, fighting and scratching to be. Whether or not they are top 10 is going to be all reliant on wide receiver, too. And if we can get some guy to pop off there. And if
Correct.
Van
I
Jefferson
think
can make a step. He's going to
Yeah,
have
I
to
mean,
make a step.
our defense is going to be the most extreme bend don't break that we've seen in a very long time, and our offense is going to have to carry this defense like the defense has carried the Rams almost for the last 2 seasons. Even in the Super Bowl run, the defense was there to pick up the pieces when the wheels were falling apart, and we saw that through the nasty November, into the playoffs and into the Super Bowl run.
Well, December
So
was bad for the offense. Like, people do not remember this because of that playoff run. Those last 4 games, we only had one, you could say, realistically good offensive game, and that was the 49ers game. The rest of them, like, I was there watching the Ravens game. Our offense was trash until that last drive. Just
yeah,
complete trash. And our defense, the only difference was our defense started improving after November into December, and that's why we won games, was because our
I mean,
defense was getting stops. Our offense improved too, and playing the Jags kind of helped that out. But like, people forget, like, our
yeah,
offense wasn't hotcakes that time of
sure.
year.
Yeah, no, I mean, even in that rusty, like I went to the Titans game in that November, and the defense was fine, but the offense
Oof.
kept putting them into bad positions. You can't just you can't fumble the ball or throw an interception in the 10-yard line on your opposing team. Like that's not okay. Your defense can only do so much, and it like you stretch the field, your defense can play. You put them on a short field, it's a little bit more difficult, and yet they multiple times, even in that game, they did hold. They just can't hold forever. So it's going to be interesting. But let's move on to week 2 and talk about the Rams' first home game for the regular season. And that will be against the 49ers.
I think they win this game off of momentum from the week before. I think it's kind of like that monkey off your back, like how we were beating the Cardinals so consistently in the regular season until what, last year, where they knocked us off. And I feel like the 49ers going to struggle with QBs the first half of the season. And I think that's going to be something that this young defense is going to really need, and AD is going to get pressure. And I really don't think these quarterbacks will be able to handle the pressure. And I think our defense actually scores in this game. Yeah.
I would agree with you. It's going to come down to who's the quarterback. And again, you have to be able to the 49ers have been so good with having a quarterback who can just manage the field. They don't have to be the best passer. They don't have to, they don't have to have legs. They don't have to do any of that. They don't have to make extraordinary plays. They don't have to, they just have to manage the ball, you know, short passes, dink and dunk, 5, 10 yards, maybe a 15 and a 20, randomly put out there. Um, but, depending on how Purdy's doing, Trey Lance, I'm not
If
super
he's
worried
back.
about if he's back. Trey Lance, I'm not super worried about. They picked up what Sam Darnold? Is that who they picked up? So I'm not really worried about him as well. I'm worried about Shanahan, just because he's good. He's a good coach, and he's always been kind of
I
a
mean, he
weakness.
preps for our games more than any playoff games. It's pretty
Right, and
clear.
yeah, so I think that's going to be the challenge. So this one is going to be a tricky one. It always is a tricky one. We'll just have to see
It's
how
going to be a
the
close game. I'm not saying we're going to blow them out. I just think with the momentum, I think we'll end up beating them that game.
yes.
So week 3, Monday Night Football against the Bengals. Who you got, and what you make of the Super Bowl rematch? I know your family's looking forward to this game, trying to get that Super Bowl game out of the head.
Yes, got all of my merch and wearing my Super Bowl because I knew we were going to have this conversation. Yeah, so this is one of two. Um, this is one of the two games that the Rams have in prime time. Monday Night Football in Cincinnati, the rematch of the Super Bowl just 2 years ago. it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a all out brawl. I think the Bengals really want to. They're going to want this one. You know, they didn't get the big one, but this will be second place if they can come out and make a win of this. Um, I think the Bengals will edge this one out. All my family who are probably going to maybe watch this, you know, they'll probably saying, "What is he saying?" But I do think that this is going to be a challenge for them, um, and I think the Bengals just they have what it takes. They have the personnel, they have the players, they have the weapons. They you know they just picked up some of the Rams defensive players, you know, aka Nick Scott. So I really disappointed that they have him. Um, I think it's going to be a loss, but I will be there. So that's going to be something we'll talk about. Is we're going to have some meetups, so we're really excited about that. But I will be at that game. I will have a Bengals season ticket holders ticket as my entry. So you know, Rams fans, there is that for us. So really looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a loud environment. Um, so really looking forward to this game. What about you? How do you feel about this game?
We're gonna get blown out. I think this game is going to be where our reality of the season starts to take in. We would have had a surprising week 1 win, a week 2 win that gets a lot of people on the more positive side of the spectrum. I think this one's going to rip our souls. They're going to be so hungry, and this defense is going to get just completely obliterated by Bengals team that isn't just hungry but has stars all over the field. Like rookies are gonna just get they're just gonna get taken advantage of. Jamar Chase, I could see him getting like 2-3 touchdowns this game. I think it's gonna be a game where we just get completely wiped out, and I think it's gonna put this team on a bad trajectory. And this is where my pessimism starts coming in on the pod.
Yeah, I mean our defensive line is going to have to hold. We're going to, we're going to have to look at our edge players to really put pressure on that quarterback and to help alleviate that secondary, just like I've been saying over the last several weeks. So we're really just going to have to figure that out, and we're going to have to rely more on our defensive front, our linebackers, our edge pieces, just because of our um, just
But that
our
means Byron Young has to work out. Like at minimum, he has to match Leonard Floyd's production, which
sure.
is not an easy feat.
No,
Like Floyd was a good player. He's overpaid, but a good player. Um, can he match just that? And like you can't always assume best case scenario. We want to like I definitely will love if he's a 5-star player, like a can't miss Hall of Fame level talent. Like I would love that. I just don't think that's going to be the realistic expectation. And with that, like who else on this team has experience getting to the quarterback? No one. No,
sure.
we have some good rotational defensive ends, defensive tackles. We do, like Marquise Copeland, really good rotational piece. Like the problem is we have a bunch of rotational pieces around Aaron Donald that can stop the run, but not a single guy who can get to the quarterback. And
Other than Aaron Donald,
other than Aaron Donald, and the problem is if the other team puts 3 people on him, like I'm not gonna blame
sure.
Aaron Donald for not doing anything. Like
Sure.
the rest of the team has to take advantage of their matchups, and they haven't in the last few years. Like
The
being
only
real,
the only thing that, again, like I said, every team is beatable, and like I said at the beginning, I think the Bengals will win this, but the Bengals could also get too cocky, and they could bite themselves in the butt, which they've done several times in recent history. So I definitely
you
think
don't
that
get cocky with the team that beat you in the Super Bowl, though.
you don't,
I
but
I think they're
you
gonna take the Rams seriously.
they have to. I think that's what the Bengals have to do. And if they don't, they're going to be in trouble. And that's what my point is they could say, well, they had a bad season last year, they've lost all these players, blah 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 blah. We're the young bucks now, we're going to take over this team. If they start having that mentality, I think they're going to start slipping a little bit. So keep an eye on that. But the Bengals are definitely, they're out for blood. And I think that they will take the W.
Let's talk about a game that I think both of us are planning to attend, and we'll actually be hanging out and doing stuff in person, and that's against the Colts. Just down the road from you. I know you're excited to go and watch this game. I'm excited to go and be able to see Indianapolis and kind of go around the town, see some awesome food. I hear you guys have good barbecue, so I'm looking forward to it, man. What about you?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be it's a short, crazy week. It's 6 days after the Bengals, and so however that outcome comes, unclear what they're going to do. They usually, I mean, typically, even if it's within the same week, they usually do fly back to LA to kind of rest. But this is kind of an even more condensed time frame than even before. So we'll see what they do. But there's only an hour and a half difference between Paycor Stadium and Lucas Oil Stadium. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, so they face the Colts, and so they'll either get to see what is it, Richard Anderson? Is that what his name is?
Yep,
Or
from Florida.
from Florida, which I probably by this point they'll put him in. If not, they'll face off with Manchu. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously it's going to depend on how the outcome goes with Cincinnati, but I think this one is going to be a W. I think there's realistically there are a few games that I think you can definitely think that could be W's, but I think this would be a rebound game for the Rams, especially from the prior defeat.
Yes, I agree. I'm like 50-50 between a win and a tie. Um, I think, man, we haven't had a tie in forever, and I just have that feeling it's going to be this season. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean the Rams have always played well against the Colts. Have
Yeah.
always. I mean, since for the last 12, 15 years, they've always played really well. And so we'll see if that streak continues. They don't play them very often, but when they do, they do play them well. So the last game, I think, for the Super Bowl run was the closest they've been in a long time to almost losing. So, yeah,
Yep.
definitely
We
interesting.
almost choked the lead, which we have definitely done before.
Yeah.
But you know who choked the lead last year? The Colts against the Vikings. So gotta have a
Yes,
little
I mean
fun
the
with them.
Colts are just a weird team. They keep losing players and gaining players, and they grab veteran players who are only around for a year, and
I
so
think
they
they
don't
have the
really.
most QBs in the last like 10 years
Oh yeah. I
out of
mean
any team. Yeah.
since Andrew Luck, it's just been a revolving door. So hopefully they found their QB for the future. For all my friends who are Colts fans who live in Indiana, I hope that they do have some success, just not on that night or that morning for LA people, because it is a 10 a.m. game for those who are in LA. 1 o'clock for those who are on the East Coast. So a lot of 10 o'clock
Richardson
games.
is very, very raw, like
Oh,
super raw.
he's 20, so he's the youngest quarterback of the draft, and going to be the youngest quarterback on the field. So,
Like
um,
athletically very gifted, but man, he's worse at throwing than Lamar was when he came out, like by far. And
so
people are giving Lamar crap. Like they're gonna have to do a very heavy like RPO style offense his first year. Like maybe he grows into it. Not dunking on the guy at all. I definitely think he has talent, but it should be an interesting challenge for the Rams. Next
I've
game against Super Bowl appearing team against the Eagles. Yeah, Zach, I think Eagles are gonna beat us. Uh, they're a great team, loaded roster. Howie Roseman has done a fantastic job through the draft and trades, building up his team. I definitely could see them blowing us out, but I think we just lose by 10 points or so. I just think this is a a loss in for a team that's trying to stay above 500 at this point in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are going to be the ones to watch out for to lead the NFC again.
Yeah,
With Aaron Rodgers leaving, that kind of frees up a little bit for the Green Bay. The Lions may actually take that division this year, which would be interesting. Um,
they should,
so they should, whether they do or
roster
not, that will
wise. Yeah,
roster wise, yeah. So we'll see what happens. Again, I think any team is beatable as long as you contain the quarterback. Um, and if you can contain a mobile quarterback, which the Rams are actually pretty successful at doing, um, then it shouldn't be a problem. The Rams' big weakness is the dink and dunk quarterbacks, um, because the Rams seem to just let
Tom
it because they have
Brady.
that. Yeah, I mean they have the bend dot break mentality. So as long like they'll just keep letting them have short gains and they'll stop them at the, they'll
That's why
stop them at
Jimmy.
the.
That's why Jimmy G turns into Tom Brady against us. Like that's all he can
Yeah.
do. Like he's like I can't throw it deep downfield. Like
And so if you're relying on Hertz to just do the deep throws or running the ball himself, I think the Rams can do a good job at stopping that. So I think your point is valid where I think they're going to lose. The Rams are going to lose, but it's going to be a tighter game.
mhm,
10. I don't think they're going to lose more than 10, just
yeah.
because of that mentality. So,
I think it's gonna surprise like the outside NFL like bubble where like they're gonna expect the Eagles to blow us out. I think we do match up well against them defensively in some pieces. The question is, can we outscore them? And you know, in my opinion, Zach Stafford is the best QB in the NFC right now, by far. The question is, can he stay healthy? Can our line rebound after a terrible year? People don't remember our line has been pretty good since McVay has been here. Can it get back to being better? And can we have that wide receiver too? Uh, those are unknowns that me and you like. Unfortunately, we can't see the future. We would
yep,
definitely have more money than we have now if we could. So definitely can't predict if the Rams offense will be able to do all three of those things. But they do. This could be a upset game, but I don't think it will be right now.
yeah. So let's kind of let's speed round the next three because we'll talk about Arizona again, but the next one's at Arizona at home. Um,
We'll
they
beat them.
have.
No
I think
Murray.
that's a yeah. I think it's I think that's going to be the easier win of the year. They're just such in discombobulation that yikes. I don't even know what to say about them. Um, then following week again another home week we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um,
Ooh.
this is
This
one of
is
those ones again where they don't have a quarterback. I mean, if you're going to let your defense win the game, maybe, but I just don't see what they have
this
going on.
one will be a win if our offense is what I think it will be around 11 or 12 or higher. If you're below 15, this is going to be a rough game. Definitely. Even if their offense is bad, I just think like their defense is so good and Mike Tomlin is so great at defensive schemes. Like what they did to us in 2018 when we were the best offense in the league by far none, outside of the Chiefs. Like the Steelers just shut us down and gave everyone else the blueprint on how to beat us. So yeah, I definitely think this will be a win. But if our offense at all is stuttering, or if Cup gets hurt, or anything like that, uh, def- definitely could be a L.
Yep. And then we go back into week 8 with the Dallas Cowboys at Dallas. Um, Yeah, so again, it's one of those situations where the Cowboys are just all over the map. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're horrible, sometimes they're horrendous. With the same personnel going in and in. So it is in Dallas, so it could be a little trickier. But again, I think that this will be a W. They're having problems with their kicker apparently, so unless they get that all straightened out, um, I think that this could be a good win for us.
I always have a rule. Every year, you need to have one game that you think you're gonna lose that you end up winning, and vice versa. Every team, I believe, statistically has one game that they should lose that they win, and the opposite. This is that one game that I think no one thinks we're gonna win. That I do think we eke out a win somehow.
Cool. And week 9, the most controversial game of the probably the Rams organization, with playing in Green Bay on November 5th in week 9 at Green Bay. Seemed like the Rams organization and Demoff were really trying to get them to stop putting Green Bay games in Green Bay in the later half of the year when cold weather starts to hit. It is not probably the coldest they have to place when they go into December, January, but it is going to be a challenge. But Stafford
Uh,
should be used to it. As far as a quarterback goes, he should be used to it.
yeah, but he played in a dome in Detroit, so it's like,
Right, but he still had to play. He still had to play the. He still had to play the divisional teams. He still had to play Green Bay. He still had to play Chicago. You know, he still. I mean, Minnesota is a dome too, so that's that. But you know, 4 games of year he had to at least play outside and presumably cold weather
I mean,
once
if
or
it's
twice.
later in the year, I
Yeah,
so he probably played 1, 2 games in very cold weather once a year or twice a year at least. Uh, yeah,
I mean, I
I
don't know.
think
It's
we
Jordan
win
Love.
this one. I think the Packers are going to be a mess this year just because Jordan Love isn't going to probably pan out.
Yeah,
Um, I think they're gonna roll with him and hope he grows with the season, and I just don't see it with the kid. But we'll see, and maybe he's the next Brett Favre, and somehow the Packers have got a third Hall of Famer in a row. But
yeah,
we'll see. I just don't think it will be
yeah. I mean, when
that
we
way.
look at this, I mean, it's hard to go through these because I mean, we're going to go through these and we've probably said that they're going to win 10 of these games, and it's just going to be one of those things where it's like we don't know. Every team is beatable. Every team is beatable. Depends on how healthy they are. If the quarterback's in, if the quarterback's out, you never know.
Yeah,
So we may seem optimistic, but at the same time, it's like you know, Kyler Murray, we have to face him twice. Jordan Love, we have
once
no
this
idea
year.
who the quarterback for the 49ers will be. We I don't even know
Yeah,
who
the
the quarterback
NFC
for the
is
Pittsburgh Steelers right
really
now. So
the NFC is super, super weak this year. Like the weakest it's been in the last decade. And I don't think people are taking that into account. Again, let let's wait until we get to the other games, and
yeah,
then we'll see more about our predictions. But it isn't all roses or like positive for me for the rest of the way. Uh, so next game, Zach. Well, there's a bye week at week 10. Decent bye
which I
week.
like. I love. I'm okay with this. I hate the early like week 5 or 6 buys. Like get out of here with that. No one should have
Mhm.
a that early of a bye week.
And then week 11, we face the Seahawks at home. I think this will be a loss. I think the Seahawks will be desperate at this point. I think their season will be going kind of in a negative light. I think they're going to, at this point, only have four or, yeah, probably around 3 or 4 wins, and they're going to need a win, and I think they knock us off here.
Yeah, so for me, I don't know. I honestly could see for some reason that we win this game at home and then we lose the next game for freakish reasons. So I don't know. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I think we should win all home games, but the other thing that we haven't really talked about is Bobby Wagner is back on their team for this season. He may bring some intel of how the Rams play their D, and that may give Geno Smith a little bit more uh, of an opportunity to make some plays, especially making some adjustments from week 1 to week 11.
Mhm. Next is Cardinals. It's going to be a win. I mean, like we said, they're kind of a mess. Kyler Murray will be back, but wouldn't have been playing for long. He's a very accident prone type of QB, especially when he plays the Rams. Uh, yeah, I just don't think they're in a position to really win a game this year against us, unless if our team is falling apart.
Yeah.
Then after that is the Browns. I think this is a loss. I think they're going to also be a really desperate team with not a lot of wins, trying to stay in competition for the AFC North. Uh, I don't think Watson is good at all, but I think he'll be better than last year. And that team is going to have average offense. I think their defense is going to be surprisingly good. A lot of good pickups in the draft. So I definitely think Zach is going to be a loss that fans don't see coming.
Yeah, and it very well, maybe. Again, it is a home game. They can't win every home game, but I think this does lean a little bit better towards the Rams, only because they're not going to be playing in Cleveland. Um, so again, we'll once we dive down and I get into their roster and things like that, I'll be able to give a better prediction. But
Mhm.
we'll move on for now.
Yep. And then at the Ravens, I will most likely be able to go to this game, Zach. I'm going to try my hardest. Ravens not that far from where I live, and really great fans. So if you live near the Ravens Stadium, definitely go. They were fantastic when we went last time. It does help that game-winning and drive, Zach. That did help my experience a little bit when I thought they were going to lose the whole game because Stafford threw pick six on the very, I think it was the first play of the game or our first drive, definitely. So that ruined the mood early on. But great food, great fans. I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, so Baltimore, it's going to be the toughest. It's going to be the toughest of the second half, I think. I think that again, when you look at some of the teams that we're facing, we've talked about the Bengals that we both kind of agree it's going to be a loss. The Eagles that this is going to be a loss. I think this
We didn't face
also
Lamar last time.
we did not face Lamar, and I think this one could be a loss or will be a loss. I mean, you're gonna have Lamar, you're gonna have OBJ on that team. They have weapons, they got players. I think that this is I think the Bengals should be scared of this team, and I think that they are. I think OBJ
The
is going to
Rams.
want I, the Rams. What did I say?
The Rams should be afraid of this team.
Well, I mean, I was more also talking about the Bengals too, because the
Oh,
Bengals
yeah, in the North. I
because
got you.
they're in the division too. But I think
Yeah.
the Rams definitely will be scared. But I think the Bengals, as far as like leading the division and trying to get back to that Super Bowl opportunity again, I think the Ravens will be their big threat in the North. So
Yeah,
um,
I definitely still had nightmares about that 2019 Ravens game. Oh, that was
Yeah,
pretty.
I'm glad I wasn't there. That was heartbreak. That was hard to watch on TV. And like I said, like the final drive was great, but it was really. It's one of those. And that year it was one of those years where it was like it was hard to watch every game. Like you felt like you could not have a relaxing game that whole entire season, and that one was just again, you were
I
panicking the whole
think
time.
that's going to be this year. This year is going to be very close to 2019. Every game, outside of a few blowouts, not in our favor, will be like close, and I don't think a lot of them will tip our way. I
I
think we
just
lose this game too.
I just hope we have some fun drives. Like I'm tired of boring like 3 and outs. Like, let's do
Yeah,
something.
last year was miserable because our offense was so bad. Like we couldn't do anything in the second half of the year. It was just boring TV.
Yeah,
Like our defense was just letting 15-yard passes constantly with like
I think
20-yard buffers. Like it, I can deal with that if when the Rams come on, like it's some electricity. Even if we don't score a touchdown, we're like moving down the field. But it was like
yeah.
three and out, three and out, three and out, turnover, three
Let's
and out, three and out. Yeah,
let's do something. Let's take the ball down the field. Something like let's just make it a little bit more electric. Like
yeah.
the Super Bowl run again. A lot of the games in between that were not as electric, but you know, the Super Bowl one was fun. Every playoff game was fun, and it was exciting to watch every game. So let's hope the Rams can like at least get their offense to a place where we're making good plays, we're making good throws, and fun catches, things like that.
Washington comes home to play us. So who you have there?
Who's the quarterback for Washington right now? You know,
That's a good question because I don't think they've really announced. They didn't
because
draft one. They do have the rookie from out of North Carolina, I believe, that they got last year. They may
so
do
I'm
him.
going to put a TBD on this. I think just because of confusion, I think the Rams should win based on that. But again, like I said, we'll do a better breakdown videos of each one of these, and we'll dive into the rosters.
Their
Um,
defense has been a roller coaster. I just know because they're a local team here, so I get a lot of Washington coverage, and I do watch. It's the only game on here on local TV, so I do see them a good amount. Their defense was atrocious last year, but the year before that they had a really good defense. And people don't realize that, and if they can recapture that, I think they
yeah,
could be a sneaky team. They were in a really hard division too last year, and people don't remember that the NFC East was a murderer's row last year. There was a good argument that all three of those teams should have made, or all four should have made the playoffs. Uh, so I think Washington beats us too.
okay.
And
Week
then
six,
yeah, go ahead.
week 16, our last and second primetime game is Thursday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints. Man, it's going to be a short week, going from 4 days from Commanders to the Saints. What are your thoughts about that?
I am looking forward to a full week of Saints fans complaining about the non-call.
Geez, Louise, that's been what, 5 years now? Like, let's move on.
Yep, and they haven't learned a thing about it since, even though they got the ball three times after
We
that
got
non-call.
there's like what, 4 players from that team still there, and none of them probably were even playing. Or Aaron
Nope.
Donald was playing, but other than Aaron Donald and probably Havenstein, so other than those two, there was no other players probably playing on that team playing because
Yep.
Cooper Cup was injured, so he wasn't in there.
No.
Like, okay, so Saints are going to be crybabies. All right, let's move on. And week 17, we have a New Year's Eve game against the Giants.
That should
It's
be
an early
fun.
game, so yeah.
Yeah, and this is the other team we've historically had really good success against. At least in recent years, especially at MetLife. Like I feel like every time we go to MetLife, we just smack them. Um, I do like their coaching staff now. I feel like they've kind of struggled with coaching staff up until last year. And bringing in Brian Dayball, he's done wonders for their offense. I think their offense has gotten even better. They started to fill good holes in defense. Uh, yeah, Zach, I think that's going to be a hard one to win.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, not just personnel wise, but depending on how the weather situation goes. Because again, weather affects everything. We saw how the Bills did against the Bengals last year. Was that last year? I think that was last year. The Bengals should not have had as much success as they did because for some reason the Bills couldn't do anything. So it all going to be how the game plays out. But I do agree. I think that this probably would lean more towards a Giants win.
Mhm. And the Rams end the season against the 49ers at the Bay, and I think they get revenge on us and pull off a dub to push their late season hopes.
So this is all going to come down to I think again it's hard to predict after 18 weeks because it's easier once we'll have once we're at week 17 to know what the stats are because again it all is going to depend on what the outcome is going to be. If the Rams is a must win to get into the playoffs, I think we're going to see a different team than if they either make the playoffs or they have no shot to make the playoffs or they're trying to keep the 49ers from making the playoffs. Like you have all these different scenarios that I think they will play differently or have a different mindset to themselves. So again, I think it's a winnable game, but because it is in San Francisco, it's in the last game of the year. There's going to be probably a lot on the line for this. I'm going to say that it's going to be more of a 49ers leading win.
Mm-hmm. So in total, I have the Rams going 8-9. Um, I'm torn between 7 and 8 wins. Uh, I do think there's a possibility for 9, depending on how the season goes. But I need to see the offense in the first 3 weeks, and see how they rebound. I
Yeah.
think that's going to answer a lot of questions for this team. Really set the tone for the rest of the season. That's going to be very important. If this team can get out of our first 5 weeks 3-2, I think they will be prepared for the rest of the season to be very successful. And if it's even better than 3-2, I think that's going to be a sign that this team has been so very much underestimated. But
Yeah.
I
No, I agree with
possibly don't see
everything.
that.
I agree what you're saying. I think that we do have a possibility to even get to that 10 win mark. Um, I do see some instances where I think we can scrap together enough to get that working, especially like you said, if we can get our offense really clicking. I definitely think that we have a better shot to enter into that 10 game win and even probably even getting a wild card spot. You never know. We could even win the division out. I don't think our division is overpowered to say that I think the 40 like we could still do damage enough to win out the NFC West. So I'm not saying it's impossible or it's plausible. I'm just saying I see an avenue that we could get there.
Yeah, it's not like winning division with Chiefs, right? A in if we were in the AFC West, I'd be like, nah, we're not winning division this year.
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
almost
if
any chance.
you're talking about you look at who's all you have the quarterbacks. You have unknown. You have either Purdy, Donald, or Trey Lance. You have Geno Smith. You have Matthew Stafford, and you have Kyler Murray. Um, those are the quarterbacks that you have in the NFC West. And us bias, we probably will always say Matthew Stafford 100% of the time, but you have one team
He's
who has
won
no idea
playoff
what.
games.
Yeah,
None of the
you have
other
one
QBs have.
other than Purdy, but but in the instance, it's like Geno Smith, maybe you have no idea what's happening with San Francisco. Kyler Murray has proven himself again and again that it's just something is not working. Whether it was the coaching staff and maybe something will happen, or there is something just wrong with the
It was
situation.
definitely coaching staff. Cliff Kingsbury was a clown.
Yep. Okay. He can spend his one way ticket out of the country. Um,
A very
and
rich clown that I will
yeah,
never match up to money wise. So it. Who am I to judge? But I'm just saying I thought he was terrible
So
offensive
even
mind.
if we do have 9, 10 wins, we could still be better than the rest of the NFC West. So we'll kind of see how it plays out, and obviously monitor how
Eight
the
and
situation
nine
goes
NFC team can make the wild card this year.
for sure. Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Um,
Depending on how tiebreakers work out.
yeah, so I it's one of those things where I really think that the Rams have that opportunity to make a playoff spot. I'm really against people that just want to just be like, hey, the Rams should just tank so they can get a good draft pick next year.
No,
That's not. Let's remember the Rams don't play in round one. They really don't play in round one. So I don't really know why we want to be like, let's tank and let's get X, Y, or Z player in the first round next
I
year. The
so
Rams want to. The Rams are still building their LA brand, and to keep having a losing season is not successful for that brand.
wait, and not to mention Sean McVay just doesn't have the mentality of like wanting to lose, so he's gonna try his hardest to win every game. And I think a big thing is like people who were like tank for Caleb Williams. Uh, do you guys not understand? If Snead has the number one overall pick, he's more likely to trade it away and get a big haul, kind of like the Bears got, uh, than just take Caleb Williams, especially with
Yeah, this
Stafford under contract. They are not. I think there's a good chance, unless if Stafford gets hurt and like retires, that's the one case I could see them going for like Caleb Williams with number one overall pick. Outside of that,
sure.
I think there's a very low likelihood that we get him at number one overall. And you're going to have to get number one to get him.
Yeah, I mean, you have Cooper Cup, you have Matthew Stafford, you have Aaron Donald. You have players who don't want to lose. These players don't want to lose every week. They want to increase their value because they know that they're other than those three, they'll know they'll probably be playing for a different team in the near future. So they're all trying to put their best foot forward, and they're going to try their best to win. And I think that, like you said, every team is beatable. They just have to execute it. And we'll see how that kind of plays out. So yeah, I'm not going to say I think they could get 10 wins. I don't know how many I said back and forth, but I think somewhere in that 8 to 10 range is probably where I
I
see
think
them
you're
hit.
at 10.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I definitely knew 4 games that I would say were definite losses, or more potential losses. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Do you have anything else you want to discuss before we kind of wrap this thing up?
Nope, guys. Stay tuned. We'll probably go into undrafted free agents next episode. Sorry for getting this out to you guys a little late. We were gonna do it on a scheduled release night. I got sick. I'm still recovering a little bit, so I apologize for the voice quality. But uh, got to get better, and I feel a little bit better now. And I'm just happy to see the Rams have a set schedule. I can start making plans, and we can start going to see some games, Zach, and it should be a lot of fun.
This is going to be a fun season. I like you said, this is the time that's awesome. We got the schedule. We can now plan things. We can plan when we're going to meet up, and we have the East Coast Rams podcast will be at 3 or 4 games maybe this year. So
Yeah,
it's really exciting that we're going to be able to do this. Whether we're together when we go to the Colts game or we're kind of taking the podcast with us while I'm in Cincy and you're in Baltimore. So I'm just super excited of where we're taking this, and I hope everyone is getting something out of it, and hopefully we can be able to do the meetups. We'll be breaking down every single one of these games, until preseason starts. So be on the lookout for those. But yeah, like Ashton said, I think next week we'll do the undrafted free agents, kind of see what the roster's at right now as they enter training camp. I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be so fun. So Yeah, if you like the content, please like and subscribe to this podcast. We are on YouTube. So youtube.com/ at East Coast Rams. You can find us on Twitter at East Coast Rams. Find us on every podcast app you can think of: Podcatcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Um, you know, take the RSS feed from one and insert it into another. There's many ways that you can get to us, and you can like and subscribe to all of them to help boost our numbers up even further. So we really appreciate everyone who does come out and listen to us. You can see our this way, this way. You can find all of our Twitter accounts. That's where you'll find us, and that's kind of where we do most of our discussions with other Rams fans and give our inputs when we're not on our video or audio versions of the podcast. So, Ashton, it has been great to do this with you once again. Anything else you want to say before we head out?
Nope, just follow us on Twitter and subscribe and like on YouTube if you don't mind, if you like the content. We're always posting hot takes out there, and you're posting awesome pictures of your children doing silly and fun stuff.
Yes, and they'll be able to come to the Rams game. They're going to come to the Colts game too. So it's going to be super exciting to at least two of them. Two of them are old enough to actually understand and participate, like watch and understand football. So it'll be very exciting for that. I will keep posting my photos of them as well. So definitely check us out on our Twitter feeds. Communicate with us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. If you want to be a guest on the show, you could also let us know that too.
Yep.
You can email us at feedback@East Coast Rams, or you can DM us at our at East Coast Rams Twitter account. That will
Yeah,
wrap it up.
if you guys DM us at East Coast Rams, be patient because we don't check the DMs of that Twitter page as much as our personal. So if you want to get our attention a little bit quicker, just personally DM one of us, and we'll get back to you.
Yep. That's awesome. So, with that, I think that's going to wrap it up, Ramley. We'll see you guys next time.